Excuse me?
Where are you?
I'm in San Bernardino. They call me Quarantine Pro. I just travel around and find all these like secluded places to hang out during quarantine. So that's today I'm just in San Bernardino.
I love it.
But first I want to commend you, Kerry, for getting behind this project. I mean, we see a lot of people with their passion projects for other stories, but just to be moved by what was going on with the Supreme Court cases and the Muslim ban, I think it's commendable. I know you call them heroes, but I think we need more people like you, putting their messages behind different forms of art like this. So I want to commend you, and then I want to commend the two attorneys that made such amazing strives to fight for civil liberties. I'm interested in the Charlottesville case, though, and how conflicting it was when you have to fight for civil liberties that seems like we don't have equally as Black Americans and white Americans. We've seen white Americans storm the Capitol in Michigan, and it's treated like protests, and we've seen a lot of times on the other side where it's treated like thugs and things. Like, how do you contend with the fight for civil liberties that's not doled out equally?
It's actually something that that Chase, who's one of the lawyers in the film, talks about a lot and talks about really eloquently. And I think how the ACLU deals with it is a really profound example for all of us, because as they are defending freedom of speech, they also encourage that freedom of speech within the organization. So they're grappling with this issue internally and talking about it so that they're balancing, the way Chase describes it, this idea of freedom of speech with what power is, and how even just, the threat to your life or structural racism infringes on your freedom of speech. And so sort of having that conversation and, digging in and being willing to really explore all of that is part of what's happening at the ACLU in real time.
Yeah, and also holding the police accountable for when they commit atrocities, and whether it's the gassing of citizens in DC for Trump's photo op, or other attempts, to hold the police accountable when police overstep in the context of brutality. The ACLU is also there to hold them accountable.
My job is to make sure the horror of what's going on stays front and center.
You believe in punishment for abortion. There has to be some form of punishment.
You can't be serious. The government can't ban people from accessing abortion.
This is the president's declaration of open season on trans people.
Transgenderism is a mental dysfunction.
They want to erase trans people from public life.
6 states would lose a seat in Congress. It's all based on the census. Kind of difficult to imagine higher stakes.
The A stands for American. Americans come first. We don't appreciate your work.
You're a filthy organization. Obviously, most of you are pedophiles.
Brigitte, do you think that any candidate has really, it's down to two, and we kind of all know where Trump has stood on this, but do you think anybody has really vocalized what the policy needs to be, even in the stuff that Congress and Senate has put up for police brutality? Do you think that we've gotten to a point of really vocalizing the elements and policy that we need to legally to fight the structural racism?
I think that there's a lot of good conversation out there about the different ways in which we can move towards a better and just society, and we have called for the defunding of the police. We've called for the end of qualified immunity, which can legally protect police when they are sued for violating people's rights. So I think that there are a number of really good ideas out there, and I would encourage people to go to aclu.org, where you can see the positions that we've taken on these issues, and we've encouraged lawmakers to adopt.
But Jamal, I want to say one of the things that I think we're up against is this idea that you talk about voting, you talk about these two candidates. And what I want to remind everybody is that there are hundreds of candidates, because when we go to vote to create change in our community, it's not just about the top, right? Like, we need to be voting for DAs who are willing to protect Black lives and protect a women's right to choose and protect immigrants' rights and LGBTQ rights. We need to be voting for judges and sheriffs and mayors and representatives to Congress who are able to uphold these standards. And yes, it's important to vote up the ballot as well, but creating change in our community means showing up for all elections, because a lot of these decisions are made state by state, county by county, neighborhood by neighborhood.
You're not going to win every fight.
Just thinking on my own kids, it's just inconceivable.
People say, why don't you go work at a law firm? Why have this level of stress riding on your shoulders? If we lose this case, I don't know what Roe versus Wade means.
President Trump wins.
What happened, Maya?
3 minutes.
I can't go on right away.
We will go back into court. We will them up.
All I've ever known how to do is fight, and so we just keep fighting. It's what we do.
We are here right now.
If I'm not going to be a civil rights lawyer right now, in this moment, when?
Yeah. There's a lot of topics covered, child separation, the Muslim ban, LGBTQ rights. But there was a lot of people disturbed by the candidates that were put into the Supreme Court, appointed by Donald Trump. Have all of you been surprised by some of the decisions to continue the Civil Rights Act to protect LGBTQ, what they decided on Trump's finances and other things? Have y'all been surprised that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have been doing this, and you think that maybe they will be fair going forward, or is this just like throwing us off or something? I mean, like, what's been your reaction to those things?
You know, I think there were some surprises at the end of this year's Supreme Court term, as you identified. I think the lineup in the employment discrimination case for LGBTQ folks, that it was 6-3. I mean, I didn't work on that case myself, but Chase, who's in the film, did. And I think, our side always thought we had the better legal argument, always thought we had the better textual argument. And Gorsuch is someone who, has risen to prominence as an expounder of, adhering to constitutional and statutory text. So, the arguments in that case were very much aimed at persuading him that we got a 6-3 victory in that case. I think, surprised a lot of people. But when you think about the legal strategy, I think the result is the direct product of the hard work that the folks who've been in that fight for a long time have engaged in. And there's a lot of chatter about the chief, being more liberal than folks had predicted, given how he sided with the more liberal members of the court on a number of important cases this term. I guess what I would say, though, is I think that's more of a function of how far to the right the conservative legal movement has been shooting lately. You can say he voted with the liberals X number of times, but these are cases that I think in a lot of situations that they would not have even been brought 10 years ago, right? They are so far to the right. So I regard what the Chief Justice has been doing as more of a function of just how far the conversation has shifted rather than any kind of ideological shift on his part.
Well, I commend you. I think like your scene when you're looking over the opinions is one of the most emotional scenes in the film, along with the kids getting reunited. There's a lot of good stuff to see in this documentary. I'm glad y'all put it together. I hope it inspires more people to work for the ACLU and become lawyers and fight for civil liberties, and more people also to take Kerry's lead and get behind projects like this and tell these stories that all people need to hear and be inspired by and just be informed by. So I commend you guys. Thanks for taking the time. Y'all be safe out there. Hope to see you on the other side of the pandemic. Kerry, I would have cut my hair and stuff, but I've been adhering to all the pandemic rules, so no barbershop. I'm not as fancy as I usually would be to interview you today, Kerry, but I got love for all y'all. Thanks for taking the time.
You're quarantine chic. I love it.
Thanks, Jamal.